Hello and welcome to this recording for Social Work 628 Research Overview. My name is Elizabeth Walker and I'm one of the librarians here at Spring Arbor University. I want to get you connected with resources that will help you supply articles that are peer-reviewed research for different areas in the social work fields. I understand that you have a topic coming up that you're going to need to do research for in this class, and we want to help you be as successful as possible. Let's take a look around and see what we can do to get you connected to those resources. So after today's video, we want you to be able to know how to easily access the library, how to locate peer-reviewed resources, specifically journal articles, how to resolve some of the existing questions you might have about research, and just as importantly, where to go for help when you have questions. This illustration is being provided to help you understand why you may find topic selection difficult sometimes. Sometimes a researcher will approach a topic or a project and think to themselves, okay, I'm just going to throw in some keywords here and see what comes up and we'll get the paper done. But as this illustrates, you'll notice that, sometimes the project is assigned, especially one where you're allowed to pick your own topic. And as you pick your topic and you start to test the topic in the databases by seeing what's out there and doing searches, and you start to find and read resources, you may find that you're not quite coming up with what you hoped for. And that'll send you right back to refining your topic and working on it and picking it again. And then going back and testing the topic in the database and reading some more resources to see if it's what you need. And you continue around this cycle until you find something that fits the criteria your professor has presented, as well as hits on a topic that you're actually looking to write about. Once you have identified a topic that works for you and is peer-reviewed and is going to be scholarly solid research, you move on to this phase where you start to judge the individual pieces to determine which sources are going to best be accurate and represent your topic. And then you begin to write and edit. And as you go along, you may find you need more research articles, so you come back to the cycle again. You'll skip picking and testing the topic per se, but you'll be finding resources, and if you weigh that out and find out it doesn't quite work, you go back to reading resources, and then you go back to writing and editing until you finally turn in that topic. Perhaps that helps to explain why sometimes topic selection can be kind of tough. It's because it is for all of us. Sometimes you go into the database with one conception and you learn things as you go along. So if you've got the time, be flexible and give yourself some time to search through those databases and find just the right thing you're looking for. Before we go any further, I want to show you a brief video called Searching 101 from Ruth Gaba of Concordia University, Wisconsin. She's going to present in about 3.5 minutes some real key concepts that you'll take into the database and use repeatedly from now through the end of your college career and beyond. I think that she has a lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek way of making sense of some of these things that confuse so many people. Let's watch.
The first thing you have to realize when talking to a computer is that computers are stupid. They do not understand sentence structure. Shoot, they don't really even understand words. Number two thing to think about is that with almost every search engine, the word "and" is assumed. Let's imagine you're a student trying to figure out why student athletes would do something as dangerous as use steroids. You go to a search box and you type, "Why would student athletes use steroids?" The computer is not going to see that and think, "Why would student athletes use steroids?" No, the computer sees what you typed and thinks, "Why," and "would," and "student," and "athletes," and "use," and "steroids." Then it goes out and tries to find things that have all those words in any order somewhere in the record of an item and bring you back results. Now, if the searching program is running a sophisticated algorithm, you may find what you need no problem, but sometimes you get a whole bunch of irrelevant junk. This brings me to my next point. Quotation marks keep terms together. Basically, whenever you put search terms inside of quotation marks, you're telling the computer, don't you dare stick an and between those words. I want them to appear in this order and right next to each other. Let's imagine that you're a student doing a research paper on how the classroom environment contributes to learning. Now you remember point number one, computers are stupid. You simply type classroom environment learning in the search box. You may end up with articles speaking about how students learn about the environment in their classroom. not the topic you're looking for. So you search again, and this time you put classroom environment in quotes. This gives you results that talk about how the desk and the walls and the bulletin boards and the computer stations contribute to student learning. Now, when you're picking what terms to use, particularly in a catalog or a database, you need to know something. Real live human beings create database and catalog records. Right now, sitting in cubicles are teams of people with stacks of books and journals next to them who are typing into a computer things like title and author and subject terms. These real live human beings all went to college. Plus, they're indexing scholarly stuff, so guess what they're going to use? That's right, a college-level vocabulary. This, coupled with your understanding that computers are stupid, means that when you put search terms in a box, it helps to talk to a computer like you're a caveman with a high vocabulary. Let's put it all together. Let's say your research question is, why don't college students get enough sleep? You may say to the search engine, college students, sleep. If your research question is, what do I need to know about talking to older patients? You may type in the search box, communication and elderly patients. One final point as you head out to find stuff. There's a difference between locating a text and actually getting your hands on it. Think about shopping online. You find a cute pair of shoes, you put the shoes in your shopping cart, and you check out. Then your computer cracks open, and you pull out the shoes, and you put them on, and you're ready to go. Don't be ridiculous. The fact is, finding research materials online is a lot like finding shoes online, only in this case, you pay money to the school gives some of the money to the library uses that money to purchase access to a wealth of resources. What's better than shopping for most things online is that a huge percentage of the time you're going to find something you want, click on its title, and like magic, it'll be right there. Then there are times where you're actually going to end up using a link resolver page where you may have to click on the title and then the volume, then scroll through to the table of contents until you find the article and then click on it to get it.
I hope that you find that recording informative. I think it's a real good refresher for even some of us who may have been doing this for a while, just to remember some of those key things that will help us to further our research in the database. I also want to mention another trick that you may see used in research, and that's a thing called a wildcard. If you are ever searching for a word that may have multiple endings, such as child and children, you can always start with the root part of the word that is the same between those two items, and then place an asterisk. So for example, if you wanted to search for both child and children in your research, you would type in CHILD star, so that that asterisk represents childs with an S, children with the REN for the plural, or just simply child with no ending at all. Keep that in mind as you approach the databases. It will help you to do more advanced things more quickly. Now I want to take a look at the peer review process for articles and what different kinds of materials exist out there. We are going to watch a video in a moment that explains the difference between 4 different kinds of periodicals or journals or magazines, but I want you to understand what the peer review process is and why your professor asks you to find those kinds of items. The reason the peer review process is so important is because when a scholar writes a piece of literature, such as a review of some kind or is reporting on some experiment that he or she has conducted, they go ahead and they go out there, they do the research, they conduct the experiment, whatever kind of search they're starting to do, and then they start to write their paper. The next thing that happens upon completion is that they send that manuscript to an editor of a journal or multiple journals in their area of study so that they can find a publisher who's interested in printing their idea. In a peer-reviewed journal, once an editor has said, I'm interested in this item, they'll then choose a panel of peers or people who are also in the field and practitioners who have degrees and know what they're talking about. They'll place that review in front of those reviewers. And those reviewers will decide whether or not the piece is quality or is worthy of being published. And then if he or she, or the panel rather, has any suggestions for changes or requirements for changes, they will confer that back to the editor, and the editor will relay that back to the researcher, and the process will continue to flow back and forth until a consensus is reached before publication. Once that article has gotten to the editor and all edits and all suggestions have been incorporated, it will then be published, and it has to meet the criteria set before that has been set by the peer review board and by the editorial staff of that journal, or it doesn't get published. So as you can see, time is taken to vet that item before it ever goes to print so that you know that there's quality. It may be hard to know, though, what items actually constitute being peer reviewed and how do you tell the difference between them. We're going to watch a brief video from one of my other colleagues here at the university. Amy James recorded something to help us understand the difference between the 4 kinds of periodicals. Let's watch that.
This tutorial is a brief introduction to 4 different types of periodical publications. Periodicals are published periodically at regular intervals, meaning weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, or yearly, for example. We will learn about the differences between 4 types of periodicals: popular, trade or professional, news or opinion, and scholarly articles. Periodicals have a variety of characteristics. When doing research at the university level, it is important to be able to distinguish between various kinds of publications. Some kinds of articles may not be appropriate for your research projects. Popular magazines can be found in supermarkets. The covers are eye-catching with color photos or illustrations. The articles are short and also have many illustrations that are usually in color. These magazines contain numerous advertisements, usually for consumer products. The authors may not be listed, and their credentials are seldom given. Staff or freelance writers usually write the articles. The articles cover general interest topics and are written for the general public and may target specific consumer groups. There is no list of references. News or opinion magazines provide general information to an educated lay audience. The articles can be short or several pages in length. The illustrations may be in color and are used to support the content of the article as well as to draw the reader in. Advertising is aimed at the general public. The authors are staff or freelance writers. There may be a short list of citations. Trade or professional publications are aimed at practitioners or educators in the field. The articles are written by experts in the field. They contain current trends and practices in the industry. The jargon of the profession is used. The cover of the publications may look similar to a popular magazine, with color illustrations and photos. Within the articles, illustrations are often in color and support the content of the article. The articles are brief and do not have an abstract at the beginning, but often have a list of references at the end. The purpose of scholarly journals is to inform and report on original research and experimentation to the scholarly world. Readers are assumed to be knowledgeable in the field. The covers are plain with mostly text inside. Usually there are tables, charts, and graphs with no color illustrations. Most articles have an abstract at the beginning and an extensive reference list at the end. Authors or scholars are researchers in their field and are listed with their credentials. The title of the journal may contain the word journal, bulletin, review, or quarterly. The article title describes the content of the article. A scholarly journal will typically provide the authors and their credentials and an abstract which summarizes the content of the article. The article is structured with specific sections such as methods, results, statistical data or graphs, and discussion. There is a reference list at the end of the article. Many, but not all, scholarly journals are peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed, sometimes called refereed, means that an article is reviewed by other scholars in the field before it is published. This review process assures the information is of high quality.
When we approach the library website, you want to pay special attention to 2 tabs that you will find on the top bar. One of them is the Search tab, which is illustrated on this Library Resource Quick Guide that's on your screen. We are going to focus our attention to the articles selection that is under that Search tab because we want to find individual journal articles that are going to fulfill the research requirements for your class. I want you to note, though, that we do have access to books, and you are able to search across the majority of the databases all at one time if you use Search Everything. But as a master's level student, you will be spending most of your time, more than likely, in the articles section where we have subject-specific data. When we go to the subject-specific databases, or rather in order to get there, we're going to hover over Search on the website, click on Articles, and then select an area of study. In your course, this is going to be the Psychology, Counseling, and Social Work subject heading that you're going to want to click to see what you need to see for this class. I'm going to take you over to the live website so that we can examine what this looks like in real practice. For today's illustration of how to search a subject-specific database, we will be taking a look at the PsycInfo database, and specifically we are going to do research on personality disorders. We're going to go to the library website by directly typing in our web address, but I do want to mention that if you are working in either the MySAU portal or in Blackboard, there are quick links within both of those resources to take you to the library website or to some FAQs about the library. From the portal, you would click on the library and you will be redirected to the White Library website in another tab. If you're in Blackboard and you click the word library that's up above, you will be directed to some FAQs about us, and then to get to our web page, you just click the colorful banner that's at the top of that resulting page and you'll be launched right into our website. If you ever want to just go directly to our page though, our website is www.arbor.edu/White Library. In order to get to databases that are specific to your area of study, we're going to hover over the search bar and we're going to drop down here and click with our left mouse button on the articles. We will be redirected to some subject areas. What we have done is taken our databases and we have grouped them together according to subject areas that are similar. So in your case, in the social work program, you will want to try out the Psychology, Counseling, and Social Work link. Now, do understand that if your research happens to cross into other disciplines, you are more than welcome to explore these. But this gives you a great jumping off point for things that will be most likely to be the kinds of items you're looking for in your field. Because psychology, counseling, and social work have some very common things with one another, we are going to choose from one of these databases and find that there are likely some applicable things across these three subject areas. For today's illustration, we're going to choose PsycInfo. Once inside the database, you'll notice a variety of different things. You'll notice some blanks up here, as well as some different things down below that we refer to as limiters. Limiters do just what it sounds like. It limits the scope of the database's search to whatever criteria you tell it to do. In this instance, we're going to combine some of the things that Ruth shared in her video with the idea of the truncation to get us to the research on personality disorders. We're going to start with a quotation mark to keep the phrase personality disorders together in the database. And when I get to the end of disorder, because it could be singular or plural, we're going to say disorder with a star, so that's a Shift and the 8 key on a Windows keyboard, or Command and 8 on an Apple keyboard, and then end that with a quotation mark. You'll notice in this database that peer-reviewed and scholarly are already checkmarked, but in some databases that may not be automatic, so just make sure your peer-reviewed checkmark is marked. And we'll also want to check mark that full text box as well for those times you're doing an assignment and you need those articles right now. Under publication dates, if your professor has said that your articles need to come from within the last 5 years, what you want to do here is click on this drop down and choose specific date range. And we can tell it to only return articles from within the last 5 years. Now, because we're so close to the end of this calendar year, we're going to also put the next year in here because it is starting to input some of those items from the beginning of next year in there. You may also want to take a look at some of these other criteria. For our search, we are not going to choose anything else down here, but simply just click search. And on the next page, what we get is a set of results, and the database will tell us that with the specific search criteria that we just gave it, it found 2,390 results within its database that are full text, that are peer-reviewed and scholarly, and came from this year range with this specific phrase in there. If you find that you want to narrow down to something more specific than this, you can either change the keyword you put in, or you can continue to look through some of these limiters off to the side. For example, one thing you can do is click right here where it says subject, and when this drops down, you can click more options, and it will pop up this list of subjects that represent all of the different subjects within this 2,000 plus collection of items that came back to us in our search. So for example, 839 of the articles in that 2,000 plus result set have the subject humans attached, and so on. I can come through here, for example, and maybe I want to focus on major depression. If that's the case, I can click include and hit apply. And we will go from that 2,000 plus result set, and we will drop down to 175. Those are the number of articles that had the term major depression in the subject heading. Now, if we start looking through these and we think, you know, that's really not what I wanted. I want to go back to where I was. You simply come over here to where it says applied filters, and you click the X next to major depression. It will remove that limiter that we had just put on there, and it will return us back to that 2,000 plus article set that we had before. And it will return us back to that 2,000 plus article set that we had before. When you see an article that you want to view, one thing you can do is click on the linked title. And a few things I would suggest here: read through the abstract to make sure that it is exactly what you're looking for in your article. This does not replace the full text, but it does help you to determine if the topic is spot on with what you're looking for. You will also note that if we take a look over here, there are a few tools you will want to take note of. One of them is the citation tool. Always use caution when using this, because sometimes it will pop you down a citation that's not 100% accurate. Make sure that if it defaults to something other than APA, that you click this drop-down arrow and switch it, and then click change, and it will reload that citation. But again, double check this against the rule book and make sure that this is correct before you use this in your paper. But it's really great in helping you make that constructed citation. I'll also point out that here under abstract details, there are a number of items that will be helpful for you in learning more about your topic. For example, take a look under subject and see if these are terms that you may not have thought of before that you can use in future or continued searching on this topic. You'll also find that the citation information that the citation tool pulled in is all listed here as well. Finally, when I am ready to actually read the full text article, I can click where it says download PDF. The full text article will be downloaded onto my computer, or it will appear in that window in a smaller box, one of the two, and I can read through this. I can print it if print is my preferred method. I can save it to my computer and store it in my hard drive or on a cloud storage device, whatever works best for me. But now I can read through this article in full text. A couple final things before we conclude our session today. Sometimes I think it's confusing to students when they're told to find an article and they see that search drop down and they see a topic that says articles. They see a link that says articles and a link that says journals. I want to be sure you understand the difference between the two, and I think that's best illustrated by looking at a physical journal copy. I'm holding a physical copy of Families in Society, a peer-reviewed journal that is a key one in the social work field. And you'll see that it bears many of the hallmarks that were discussed in that video. Articles, lots of black and white, very few illustrations. When you go searching for things for your paper, what your professor wants you to find is an article from within here. So for example, here's one called The Association Between Shelter Rules and Psychosocial Outcomes Among Homeless Youth Residing in Family Shelters. What you're searching for is this individual article, and the article comes from within a journal. I think sometimes it helps to see the physical item, because in the electronic world, all of those familiar touch points are stripped away, and sometimes it's a little confusing looking at that menu. So when you are doing an original search for journal articles, you're searching across thousands of different full-text journals for individual articles that are inside. So when you come to our database, again, be sure to choose Search and then Articles. I just want to conclude our session today by making sure we review that if you have any questions beyond today, how you can reach out for help from us. On your screen, you'll see a variety of choices. You can email us at saulibrary@gmail.com. You can call to the reference desk directly at 750-6445. That's area code 517. You can also call our circulation desk at 517-750-6742, and they can direct you to the person who is on call if you're not reaching someone at the reference desk. And at any time on our screens, when you're on our website, if you see this gray Chat with a Librarian box, that means you can submit a question and submit your email address, and you can ask a question in real time and get an answer. So if we are not staffing the desk, let's say that it's 12:30 at night and that's when it's best for you to do your homework, you can still reach out and ask questions. The SAU librarians do spend some time answering questions on that service as well, but if it's after hours, it's probably going to be someone from somewhere else who's also trained in answering library questions. Also, if you're on the site and you see this little blue and white chat tab pop up on the website, that means one of the 4 of us librarians is online and is ready to answer your questions. You can always find more helps on our website as well by going under Help and choosing Tutorials. We also have a specific help area for citation style guides, so if you are puzzled with APA, pop on over there and take a look at some of the links that we have. Finally, I just want you to see the faces of all of us who answer your library questions. There's Robbie Bolton, he's our library director, followed by Karen Parsons, our information and literacy and reference librarian. Then there's me, your online and distance learning librarian. And finally, Amy James, our emerging technologies librarian. I hope today's session has been helpful and informative for you, but if at any time you have additional questions, please reach out for help. Thanks for watching.